Welcome to the Blogger Genius Podcast, brought to you by Milo Tree. Here's your host, Jillian Leslie.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Today, I'm swimming in boxes. We are moving from Northern California to Austin. If anybody is listening to this from Austin, please reach out. I would love to meet you in my new city. Okay, for today's interview, it is terrific. It's with Kate Doster. It is all about email marketing. It went long, so I am splitting it in two. You will learn so much. So here is part one. Today, my guest is Kate Doster. Kate is an email marketing strategist, and I'm excited to have her on the show because I want to talk all things email marketing. And when I mentioned that to Kate, like her eyes lit up and she's like, I could talk about it for days. So welcome to the show, Kate.
Hi, it's true. It's kind of a sickness, guys. It's kind of a sickness.
So we have to get into how you started in this space and how you got into email marketing.
Okay, so it's one of those much like yourself. So I had been actually making money online since like the GeoCities Live Journal days. So like we're talking like Netscape level browser, guys. Yeah, exactly. So like roughly forever. So back in that day, it was more of like, you know, like more of like a diary thing, just kind of see what's going on, almost the way like social sort of morphed now. And primarily the way I was making income back then was I was doing a lot of what's called retail flipping. So like I would buy things at discount department stores, usually more higher end, and then I would sell them on eBay. So that's the way I first made money online. And
so what kinds of things were you doing that with? What kinds of products?
So for that, and I think you'll find this with most blogging in general, the riches are in the niches. So I actually did it with handbags. So it's purses. Okay. And what's really nice when you're not looking for a whole bunch of stuff, like, you know, the brands that sell really well, you know how much you're going to sell for it. So that way, when you do see them in discounts, you know, at different stores, like a TJ Maxx or a Marshalls, you'll know, like, is this a good buy to then go and flip?
So like a Kate Spade bag.
Exactly.
Okay. And was that lucrative?
I was in college at the time, so for me that it was.
Okay.
I was doing it part-time and I made more there than I did at my actual part-time job, so yes.
Okay.
Ironically, I sourced most of my purses from my part-time job, so that's always fun. And then, you know, I was in college and my parents were not very entrepreneurial at the time and like very like anti-sales and all of that. So they're like, you know, go to college. They wanted like you to get like a 9-to-5 job, like to be a teacher or something of that nature. So I went and I got my degree in communication, but like I was the kid that had like 80 million majors. And then I was in social services for a while, and then I ended up in the banking industry. And so along that sort of path with changing, it just sort of became more like sporadic and it wasn't my main source. So what had happened is back in 2012, when I was at my banking job, I became pregnant with my first daughter. And at the time in the United States, they could fire you for going on maternity leave.
What?
And they did.
What?
Because I wasn't considered full-time and I wasn't there for a year. So like I had been there with something like 11 months and I worked like, this is why I'll never work for anybody else ever again. Like they would have you work just enough hours to where you weren't considered full-time, but like you were maxed out in your part-time hours. And so they considered at the time, I believe it's changed in the United States since then, that a pregnancy was considered an illness or an injury. Okay. And they're like, you have 3 days to come back to work or you're fired. And I'm like, not like laid off. They're like, oh, no, it'll go down as a termination. And I'm like, yeah. So we worked out an agreement with them. That's why I'm not going to say the company. So it worked out that way. So I was kind of forced into being an at-home mom, which was kind of nice. It wasn't what I had expected. Okay. And then we had our other kid and, you know, life sort of happens. And I'm like, I need to use my brain again. So I got back online. I started blogging. We started flipping. At the time, I had done like a minimalist living blog. That's how I sort of dipped my toes back in there.
Okay.
But I'm like, my heart really wasn't in that.
What is a minimalist living blog?
Okay, so it was a lot of like mindfulness, get rid of a lot of your clutter.
Yes.
This was actually the magical art of tidying up.
Wow. Good for you.
So like we got a little bit before then, and like her book came up and it blew up huge. But, and I'm sure you guys noticed this with bloggers, it was one of the things, like the topics that my audience wanted me to talk about, I didn't like.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, exactly. It's like they all want to talk about like organization and things like that. And I'm like, the whole reason why I got rid of all of my stuff so that I wouldn't have to do all this.
Right.
And something that I had always really loved, and you can just tell from me, like I've always been a talker, a communicator. I loved it. And I had stumbled upon a different blog when I was trying to sharpening my writing skills. And I found this thing called copywriting. Ooh. And if you guys had ever watched Mad Men, that's like what they did like back in the ad agency days. And I fell in love. So I found a really prestigious copywriter and I apprenticed under her, and then my business just like blew up. So I took freelance copywriting clients forever, and that's how I made my money. And then now I've transitioned more into the coaching,
like teaching people.
Exactly. Particularly email marketing, because I couldn't write another about page ever. Like that just didn't light me up. But anytime I had to write an email series for somebody,
Ooh.
Whether it was selling or just in general, I'm sure we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
It just lit me up. Like that was my medium. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I love this so
now,
much.
Why do you think it lit you up?
I think it was because it's a lot of storytelling. And even though you can have long emails, and I'm sure we'll talk about the length a little later, it was just sort of shorter. And honestly, it was more personal to me than even like a general blog would be. Like you could actually let your client's voice like show through and tell stories and even have pictures. And I just really loved like the friendly, intimate atmosphere of it.
Got it. So okay, then let's now dive into email and what you think. Like if I'm a blogger and I want to sell a product.
Okay.
But I don't even know, and let's say I'm collecting a list. And by the way, one of the, when I ask other bloggers on this podcast, what is the one thing you wish you knew now, that you wish you knew back then? What is it? And I can't tell you how many say, start collecting emails, start creating a list. But a lot of people go, well, I'm creating a list, but I'm not exactly sure why.
Exactly. And the way that I like to think of it, again, copywriter background, is there's a very famous copywriter, and he asked all of his students, you know, if you were going to start a hamburger stand, what would you want? And so everyone's like, oh, like the best location, Kobe beef, you know, artisanal buns, a sponsor that would shout us out. He's like, no, the only thing you need is a hungry crowd of people.
Okay.
And that is what your email list is a hungry crowd of people. And primarily, especially for us bloggers, because that is what I consider myself now, is we'll be pumping out all of these blog posts, but so is everyone else out in the world. And so what ends up happening is somebody could end up binge reading like 5 articles on how to plan the perfect party for their 5-year-old, and they might not remember which one was even you.
Yeah.
But when you get them on an email list and you give them more party advice, and we'll talk more about what to send people later, you're going to be able to stick in their mind so they remember who you are and they keep on coming back. Right. That's why it's so important. Right. And this is why most bloggers end up struggling, because people will, you know, land on their site. If they're lucky, maybe they'll read one other article, but there's no staying power. There's no way to be remembered.
And one thing that has really changed back from when I started, which is like 2009, I would go to blogs and I would read them. I'd read them every day or at least once a week, and I'd leave comments on the blog. And then with social media, and especially something like Pinterest, people are, you know, popping into your site and then popping out of your site. I'm looking for a recipe and I end up on a random blog and I like the recipe, but I don't have a relationship with that blogger. And chances are I'm going to pop off and maybe pop onto somebody else's.
Exactly. And you might have really liked, say, her blueberry muffin recipe, but you might not be able to find it later, even in your browser history, to see what else she can offer you, because you loved her recipe. It was so easy and delicious.
Exactly. And one thing I just have to say about MiloTree, for example, is you can collect email addresses from it. But one thought is that giving up your email address today is a big ask. So you can start with MiloTree by connecting with people on, say, Instagram. But then if you can get them to follow you on Instagram, you know, that's like a small ask. Then ultimately, if they come back to your site, chances are you can then ask for their email address and, build the relationship that way.
I completely agree. I think, first of all, I love Milo Tree. That's how we connected, guys. I'm a fangirl of the Milo Tree.
Thank you.
The stuff that it has done for my Pinterest account, that's primarily how I use it, has been just bonkers, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. So I love Milo Tree.
But sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but do you agree that asking for an email address can be a big ask?
See, part of me is torn.
Okay.
If you're just offering updates and a newsletter, yeah, that's a huge ask because nobody wants more. I even call it junk mail now.
Yes.
People don't want that.
Yes.
But they might follow you on Instagram because they've got some scrolling to do. However, if you're actually offering them a piece of valuable content, something that is a problem solver, we call those either an opt-in gift or a lead magnet that actually solves an immediate problem they have, it's not a big ask at all. They are like literally so excited to give you their email address because you're solving some type of pain that they have.
I love that. Yep. So, okay. So I'm a blogger. I'm collecting emails. What do I do? And I don't yet know what product I'm selling. But let's say let's pick a niche. Okay, I am a organizing blog, like your favorite, right? I teach people how to organize.
Okay, so the very first thing that you would need to do, because see, I think people get very almost obsessed with like their list number, but what they don't realize is that just your email list is only one part of like a 6-part ecosystem that is email marketing. And I think that's where a lot of disconnect tends to be. So I just want to, make that clear. So once we have decided on a free gift, so say probably some type of printable, so maybe like organizational labels, or even like a game plan for people to tackle clutter in their kitchen, like a nice checklist, that would be really great. So what you would want to do is, of course, you can go and look on your blog and see where are people landing on there the most. So what types of posts are doing really popular? That's sort of the first set to go. And then you'll sort of have an idea in the back of your head, like, you know what? I'd really like to create something actually around like conquering kids clutter, because all of the posts that are really popular and where I'm getting all my signups tend to be on these posts. So what you can do in your emails is just ask people like, what rooms are you really struggling with? Like ask them questions to start feeling some answers. So then before you actually spend time and sometimes money to create your paid offer, you can do what I call pre-selling. Now, some people, it gets them a little nervous. If you're like me, where you're like queen of the procrastinators, you kind of need to. So what you do is you've been interacting with your email list, you've been checking your analytics, and you're like, hey guys, so I'm thinking of creating like this ultimate toolkit all about conquering kids clutter. So that way we don't have to yell at them constantly through picking up their toys and things are nice. Now, as you notice right there, so we don't have to yell at them and things are nice, that's a benefit of having a clean room. And that's the collaborating backward coming out. Because why do people want a clean room? For me as a mom, so I don't have to yell at my kids anymore because I don't want to deal with the hassle.
Right.
Is that something that you guys would be interested in? And then if you just get a little bit of a yes back, usually just like, hit reply and let me know. So from there.
Okay, I will say this, which is, I try this and it is true that my audience does talk to me, but not as much as I would like.
Then find the diehard fan and go with them. That's usually what I like to say.
So say that again.
Find like those people that are diehard, that are interacting with you, whether they're interacting with you in social media, whether they're interacting with you in your list, and really dive in and start almost a personal conversation with them via your email. Not your whole email list, but like when they reply back to you to really get it. Because chances are if they were attracted to you and they're having these feelings and these problems or these issues or even just interests, a whole bunch of other people who are being quiet have those same things.
Okay, because I want you to know that calms me down, because people always say, and then talk to your list and they'll tell you what they want. And I will do that. And then I get crickets, or I get a couple responses, but you're saying take those responses and like dig deeper. See if you can set up a call with that person.
Exactly. That is worth like a gajillion dollars, if that is a monetary amount. It's just to either get somebody on the phone or just really keeping up that open line of communication with them, because we might think that they want something, but we don't know it until we can kind of get to the reasons underneath it. And the other thing that I have to say is, particularly with us bloggers, when it comes to creating products, the easiest one that you want to start like talking about and just putting out feelers is something that you use yourself or something that you've already accomplished. Because where I find a big disconnect when it comes to selling, especially via email, is a lot of people have that like, who am I to talk about this mentality? Or like, oh, I don't know enough about knitting, or
right, I
I'm
didn't
not
go
a
to school for knitting. Yeah,
exactly. I'm not a professional organizer. Like, I'm just a mom who hates tripping over stuff. So when you go into that mindset with, even if it's like I call it a tiny victory, and you sort of base your product around that, the enthusiasm that you will have, the amount of times that you will tell people about it, because spoiler alert, guys, if you're just emailing your list once about your paid offer, it's not going to work.
Okay.
Okay. That's about like the root cause of when you're deciding to do a product. And after you see like what everyone likes that's on your list, you want to ask yourself like, what results do I have? Because then that's what you can talk about.
Got it. Okay. So let's keep going. Okay. So I'm an organizer blogger. I've come up with an opt-in, which is I'm going to do a checklist for how to clean up your kitchen. And by the way, I've heard this, and you can tell me if you agree. Your opt-in should be one page. Like, it is not an ebook. It is not something where the person who gets it goes, oh my God, I have to now read this whole thing. It should be like quick and easy.
Yes. You want to do it as digestible as possible.
Okay. I give away this opt-in, and it's working, and I'm getting people on my list. And I have now, how big a list would you say I need to actually kind of go, yeah, I'm here? What would you say that should be?
Yeah, I'm here as in regularly sending emails, or yeah, I'm thinking of a product.
Let's start with, yeah, I'm here. I'm going to start regularly sending emails, and then I'm now ready to sell a product. What would you say those should be about?
One. Literally number one. If there's one person on your list and it's yourself, you need to start emailing weekly.
Okay, even if it's just your mom.
Even if it is just your mom, because it is going to, think about this. If you're a giant introvert, or even if you're not, do you want to learn how to do public speaking in front of thousands of people? Or would you much rather it just be your best friend and your mom in the room?
Great.
And
yes.
That's the same way with email marketing. Email a lot while you're small. So that way, by the time you are bigger, I'm using air quotes, and the time you have more of a crowd, you're comfortable in your writing style. You're comfortable hitting send, because so many people are so afraid of hitting the send button and then getting unsubscribes. It'll stop them from even sending emails. And people want to read your emails. That's why they signed up for your list.
Right.
So starting when you have a one person is the best bet.
Great.
When it comes to selling,
yep,
particularly for us bloggers, I say, honestly, 100 people. I know
really?
Everyone says like 1,000. That's not true at all. I feel like when you have 100 people, you can start talking out to them. At that point, if you're on any of the email service providers, you can have them send you an alert when someone signs up for your list. So you can reach out and send them a personal message. Be like, hey, Jillian, thank you so much for hopping on the list. Don't you just hate kitchen clutter? And just open up a conversation. Now, not everyone is going to reply back to that.
Right.
But the more that you can talk to people,
right,
the more they will feel special, because you have time to give them to
yes.
feel special, and they'll be brand advocates. They'll help you make your program, and then they're going to tell everyone for you, and you're like, woo, yeah, free sales and referrals. What?
And what I really like about that, what you're saying, is do things in the beginning when you're building that are not scalable.
Exactly.
And what I mean by that, if that doesn't make sense, is you're just starting your list. You got 5 people on your list. You got enough time that you can send each one of those 5 people a personal email.
Yeah.
Now, when 500 people join your list, chances are you can't do that where you reach out to each one individually. So take advantage of the fact that you're small and that you can start building these relationships.
Exactly. And the other thing that I have to say, especially about selling products, is you need to set some realistic expectations. Like if you're going to be selling a $15, ebook that's a bunch of printables or checklist or organizational like kit, and you only have 100 people on your list, you're not going to make $100,000 unless you're planning to charge like $500,000. But if you're planning to charge, like $10, you can kind of figure like, all right, even if I make $50, that's still huge at the beginning, because then again, you're small. Reach out to those 5 people. Thank them so much for buying. Send them a little personalized video. Ask them what else they want. And then you can add to it, which means you can raise your prices, which means you have testimonials, which means you have more people, which means you have more advocates. And I wish you could see my hands. It's like this upside down pyramid. You just get bigger and bigger and bigger.
I love that. Yeah, I agree. So yes, so here are the advantages to being small and to starting. I am a big believer in like pushing myself off the cliff. I don't want to press send, and I will push myself to do it. Even, I'd written, if you get my emails, I wrote about how I've come to embrace typos in my newsletters, because it's kind of the cost of doing business. And by the way, when I find one, do I cringe? Oh my God, do I cringe? But I've come to kind of be kinder to myself and say, well, this is the cost of doing business. You want to be communicating with your list. If I had to wait until every typo was gone, I'd send one newsletter a year.
I'm laughing because I honestly made it a game with like my subscribers. And like, again, I got paid lots of dollars to write things for people, and I still have typos, and I still make hundreds of dollars every single day, even if an email is a typo. So just send it, because you seem normal.
Totally. And you know what's weird? I had read this. You could tell me what you think about this. When you write a newsletter and you mess up, like the link doesn't work, or you forgot the link, or whatever it is, then you get that second newsletter from that person going like, oops, sorry, that kind of thing. Faceplant. That the open rate of those emails is higher than the original email, because people want to know what happened. They want to know how you messed up. There's, it's a little bit like, ooh, I know, like the oops, And so I had read even that it's not a bad idea every so often to send that email, to mess up on purpose, to send that email apologizing, because you get more interaction.
I personally wouldn't do that, because I feel like it's being disingenuous.
Yes.
Because you're doing something on purpose. But if it happens, definitely send that email. like
embrace it.
Go ahead. Yeah, exactly. Don't feel bad. Don't try to cover it up. Don't be embarrassed. Like, just be like, oh my goodness, guys. So, and then this is what happens, and you'll see more normal. But yeah, if that ends up happening where you send them to their own blog, or if the sales page doesn't work, or something isn't working, owning up to it is huge.
Yes. And you weirdly might be rewarded for it, because you're human.
Exactly. People buy from people.
I like that. Okay. So I've got my list, and I'm growing it. And I'm up to 200 people on my list. What should I be doing? How often should I be sending them emails? How do I start my sales process?
Okay. So we talked a little bit about that, about how you want to be asking your email list questions. And again, even if 3 or 4 people are replying, that's really good, because we want to make sure that we're not creating in a bubble. We want to make sure that we're actually making something that not only people want, but that people want from us.
And to pay for.
Exactly. And there's always going to be people on your list that are never going to pay you a dime in your life. And I don't want you to kick them off or get mad at them, because they might be referring you to other people that do pay you. So that's just kind of a way to thank those non-buyers on your list. They could be spreading the word about you to actual buyers.
And could we talk about what percent you can assume will buy? Like, isn't it like if you can get 2% of your list to buy your product, you are doing well.
Yes.
And is that kind of the rule of thumb?
Yes. The reason I've hesitation, like, mine is a lot higher, but like, this is what I do for a living. living. So like, oh man. But yes, if you're getting anywhere, honestly, from 1 to 2% of people, usually 1, honestly, sometimes a little bit lower, depending on the offer and the industry, is actually really good.
Okay.
It's really good, guys. So do not feel discouraged at all. Be happy that you made the sale.
So that means, by the way, if you have 100 people on your list and you're selling a $10 product, you might make somewhere between $10 to $20.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But you never know, because you reached out to 10 people who actually replied back to you and they feel like they've had some part in it. Like, you could do really well. But again, just don't think you're going to make $10,000 off a $5 ebook.
Okay, great.
Great. You know what I mean? Like, just to have expectations. So, and we have all, guys, it is a rite of passage. If you have tried to sell something, in our industry, they call it launching, but you try to like actually put something out in the world and nobody buys. Everybody has that. So I want you not to be sad or disappointed. I mean, obviously you can crawl in your bed and watch some Gilmore Girls that day if you feel bad when your cart closes, but no, that means that you are doing something that 99% of the population will never do because they're too scared to take that chance.
Yes.
And you did it.
Yes.
Like, give yourself a round of applause.
And then so you can lick your wounds. I do that. And then you could say, okay, what can I learn from this?
Exactly. And there's always something. It's like, was I emailing at the right times? Was I actually not only just addressing, people like really go for like logistical things like price, but like, did I address some of the psychological factors and triggers behind it? Did I paint the picture of how much better life is going to be after this? I mean, you're not going to talk about like, the life-changing art of a clean living room per se, but like, did I actually address those things? Did I talk about it enough on social media? Did enough people actually know about this? Like we were just talking about. If only 20 people saw your offer and you only emailed about it once, well then, okay, now next time, email more than once.
Got it. Yep. All right, so I've got my list. I got 200 people on my list. How often, just in general, how often should I be sending email newsletters?
I say once a week. I heard an audible gasp, guys. That's only 4. Y'all can
4 a month. Okay.
Just 4.
And so again, I'm an organizer. What are my emails about?
Oh my goodness, there's so many buckets that you can use. Like it's unbelievable. This is why I get so excited. So of course there's the standard where, you could tease out a little bit about what you wrote on the blog this week and send them a blog link. But you don't want to necessarily do that in all 4 because why would somebody bother? So you could, again, send out just a plain old question to people. Like, what's the one room in your house that if you woke up to tomorrow and it was crystal clean, you'd fall over in disbelief? And that's literally your email. You're asking.
Literally, that's all I'm writing.
That's it. That is it. And you can have like a PS at the bottom. Next week, I'll share mine. Or when you reply back, I'll tell you mine. So that way you're starting the open lines of communication. It's more friendly. It's going on. Maybe you want to, then the next week you are going to do some fun finds. So you could do, your 5 favorite organizational tools for garages. I don't know if that seems to be like, if it's summertime, because that'll make sense because it's seasonal. So that's it. It's just 5 fun finds. If you happen to have affiliate relationships, check to see if you're allowed to put affiliate links in your emails. Some places you can't. I think Amazon, you might not be able to.
Right.
But obviously double check those as well. Maybe you go into a program that's free like Canva and you just create a little tool guide really quick, because then you could have your affiliate links in that. And you're like, hey guys, I know that summer is coming and garages are stuffed full of all that stuff from spring and winter. Here are my top 5 tools for keeping everything organized, especially all that soccer equipment. And then you just give them a little link to your PDF that you made, and then they're off on their way. And they're like, ooh, this is so nice.
Now, here's a question. Do you recommend shorter emails or longer emails?
I say, this is a term I got from Ryan Schwartz. Always quote your people here. If it's going to be long, which is fine because people read it, don't throw bricks at people. Meaning your email could be like a gajillion words, but if it's like every couple of sentences, you have different paragraphs, just like you do with blogging, guys. And you have got some bold and italicizing, and there's an interesting story, then people will keep reading on and on while they're scrolling. So I don't want you to ever be like, oh, well, I talk too much for email. That's fine. People will read it if it's interesting and it's formatted well.
Oh, wait. So I'm now just understanding what you mean by don't throw bricks at people. Don't throw big, long paragraphs.
Exactly. Because people are still skimmers. And, you know, think about yourself when you're reading your email on your cell phone, like your thumb is sort of constantly going. Yep. So that's why if you do have an email that you consider a little bit on the longer side, make sure, just like we do in our blogs, that you are using those boldface, like so that way people can see the more important points of your email.
Got it. So break it up, like use space.
Exactly. Use space. You don't need to be like having a word count.
Yes.
I know some people are like, oh my goodness, like should it be like under 200 words? Well, if you only need 200 words, then awesome sauce.
I do this, and since you're a copywriter, you could tell me what you think. Mm-hmm. I tend to like to write with a lot of words like just and those kinds of filler words. And so I will go back to my email and I will cut all of those words out because I want it to be as concise as possible.
And that is perfect. Just is a really good one. If you're using and a lot, that's something to look at. Can you make them 2 sentences? The word that is actually like the biggest culprit of filler language that there is out there. The word that.
Okay.
Usually you can slice them right down. Things will flow easier and it will read easier. So that's a great tip. Great tip.
Okay. So I do that. I've just started where I go, I don't need all these words. And in a weird way, psychologically, I think I use them to soften my power.
Ooh. How so? I'm
just
intrigued.
Just to, like there, instead of just saying it, I qualify it by these softening words. What'd you say?
I said, you're normal. Congrats.
Yeah. So I've decided that because in general, I want to not be softening what I'm saying. It's also a good exercise for me to fully put my voice out there without qualifying it, that kind of thing.
Never apologize for emailing people unless you sent them the wrong link. And you're not apologizing for sending them that second email. You're apologizing for the wrong link.
Yes.
Like they're like, oh, like I know you're busy, but I just want to no.
Yes.
Like you wouldn't say, oh, I know you're busy, but since you have a headache, here's the aspirin. No, they're happy the aspirin's there. Just give them the aspirin, people. Just give them the aspirin.
I like that. I really like that. So you don't want to be apologizing for showing up in somebody's email.
No.
In somebody's inbox.
No. You do not.
Because you don't even want to put the reader in the mind space of like, yeah, I am really busy and you really are bothering me.
Oh, you again. Like, no.
Yeah, like, oh, because you told me I should feel offended. I will feel offended.
Exactly. And when we talk a little bit about actually like sales emails, which spoiler alert, y'all, every email you send is a sales email. Shocking, right. I know, because you got to
tell me.
So
let's talk about it.
The big things that I preach to everyone who will listen to me, which is you guys, because I'm in your ear holes. And you need to sell the fact that even in a content-rich email, so that's like one where you're sharing a quick tip or even a link to your blog post, you're selling the fact that you're an authority in your topic.
Yes.
That you are trustworthy, that you are likable, that you are someone that should be paying attention to. You're selling the fact that your stuff deserves a spot in someone's inbox. You're selling the fact, and this is like the hugest thing, which will just make you love email so much. You're selling the fact that you care. Because every single blogger I have ever met, and this is why, no offense to everyone else, we're the best. We care about our readers so much, it's almost sickening. We're obsessed with making their lives better, whether it's a healthy meal, whether it's having fun painting, whether it's having your party be the best party ever. And when you go in with that mindset and you're selling to them the fact that you care, they'll feel it, guys. They will feel it.
So that's it. That is the end of part 1. Come back next week where Kate and I go so deep into how to build a sales marketing funnel. And if you want to grow your email list, sign up for MiloTree. You can also grow Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Pinterest, all from the same pop-up. If you sign up now, go to milotree.com and you will get your first 30 days free.